was a really, really good year as well for Mika Kruger in terms of her sort of road results. You know, she's won Lotto Belgium Tour in her career as well, and you know, there's some stage race victories that Mika has had, and always uses that time trial ability. Always so aggressive in races as well. Real, you know, getting into the breakaways, and in it kind of that 2019, then that focus shifted onto the track. And then now, you know, it's good to see her back just mixing up now with the road and the track.
4 individual wins, like you said there, Marty, in 2019. Such a strong rider, a huge asset to any time trial, team time trial racing as well for Germany, and obviously a huge part of the team's pursuit squad as well.
Just see Pfeiffer Georgie having a word there with Grace Brown as she comes alongside her in that British Champions jersey. Grace Brown just talking into the radio, just keeping the team organised. Lorena Wiebes just moving up in that pink points jersey.
Potential collaboration there because, you know, if you think Grace Brown would just be happy to get to the line safely, and for Pfeiffer Georgie and Team DSM, they'll be looking for that bunch finish. So maybe an opportunity for them to work together.
And that's it's always a good sign to see the negotiation that's going on amongst the riders as well. And that's what happens, isn't it? And we talked earlier on about the sort of road captain role that Pfeiffer Georgie has. But we've got a hand up here for Grace Brown. So she was talking into the radio. The yellow jersey's got her hand up. Has she got a mechanical problem here? And Amelia Farlene, it looks like on the far side of the peloton, is dropping back. But hand up for the yellow jersey. She's got one teammate dropping back with her.
And interestingly, Pfeiffer Georgie is moving up as well to talk to her teammates. And potentially that was the conversation between Grace Brown and Pfeiffer Georgie there, just to keep the pressure off here, to remain in control and at the front of the peloton, but give the opportunity for Grace Brown to go back to the car, to deal with any issues she might have, to then get back to the front of the peloton.
So the attentive negotiation as well, just having a word. 15 kilometres to go though now to the finish. The yellow jersey having an issue. Alessia Patuelli here just tapping her pockets, trying to find some food. And it just means that it's kind of almost allows the yellow jersey to just drop back, deal with that mechanical issue with a sort of a relative amount of calm around the front of the race, with that constant pressure of DSM.
I wonder if perhaps hand up too early there for Grace Brown, and just shows everybody that she does have a problem. Instead of just drifting away all the way back to the peloton and then putting your hand up, it gives other riders within the peloton, especially those who are so close in that general classification, to immediately radio through to their teammates, to their sports directors, to let them know of the situation and what's going on before it would be radioed through on the on-radio tour.
It's a really hard one to call, isn't it? Because for Grace Brown, she obviously wants the team to be able to come to the front of the convoy as quickly as possible. But like you say there, Hannah, you don't want to give away your cards and your scenario on the road to the other teams that might profit off your bad luck if it is a technical problem. So a tough one to call. FDJ obviously being the front car in the convoy, having the yellow jersey, so actually you would have said she could have risked it, gone to the back of the peloton and then put her hand up, knowing that the car would be able to get to her very quickly.
So we'll have a look from the helicopter shot just to keep an idea on where the yellow jersey is. Her teammate Amelia Farlene as well. This is again a good lesson that Farlene has dropped to the back of the peloton, and then we'll get the word, rather than dropping back with Grace Brown, she'll drop back when she needs to, you know, rather than giving herself a massive gap to close as well.
She's saving all that firepower and the energy to be able to then drop back to Grace Brown and try to get her back on as efficiently and as quickly as possible.
Fabulous crowds out for stage 6 of the Women's Tour today. We're heading towards Oxford.
Is this Abingdon-on-Thames, I think? Beautiful shots here from the aerial shots. Lots of people out cheering as well.
Our breakaway group, you'd say in terms of bunch sprint, they would need to take this gap out considerably if they're going to fight off the multiple sprinters teams that are coming through to the front of the peloton. Kröger, always a good breakaway companion to have. Let's have a look down through the bunch and see if we could just catch a glimpse if our yellow jersey is back on and making her way back through the peloton. Here
There's
she
Brown.
comes.
Whew.
So
I think that would be a sigh of relief, Marty, for Brown and her teammates there.
Being brought back up by Maëlys Grochetet as well. So yeah, like you say, Hannah, great to see Grace Brown back in the peloton now as we come into 13 kilometres to go here.
And again, it's always that sort of unwritten rule in cycling, isn't it? That you don't, you know, that it gets talked about so many times as well, doesn't it? Over the years, if the yellow jersey has an issue. So we'll let's keep that little doggy on a lead, and as the peloton go through. So the yellow jersey now getting brought up towards the front now by the teammates. So the yellow jersey is back into the right position, and the teammates now can take over. EF Education, Tibco, Silicon Valley Bank, Letitia Borghese, they're going to be working for in this sprint. And then you just see Bike Exchange Jayco at the bottom of your picture. They're going to be trying to bring Alex Manley through. And how the tight nature of that final run-in as well that might be something that suits the skills there of Alex Manley, would you say?
Yeah, I think as long as she still has a couple of riders in front of her in that lead out, and which is what we saw the other day, where they had a really strong lead out for Arianna Fidanza. It was actually Manley leading out Fidanza on that stage, and perhaps if the tables are turned, perhaps give Manley a shot at the bunch sprint. And in the end, she kind of ended up getting swamped. I think we've seen a couple of teams start their lead out train just a little bit too early, with not many riders in front to protect and look after the interests of the sprinter, and they kind of find themselves isolated and jumping from wheel to wheel in that final sort of 700, 800 meters to go part, and just not able to quite finish things off. But when you take a look at that run-in, around 3 kilometers to go, it's straight road, it's relatively wide. You get to 2 kilometers to go, we've got 8 central islands that the riders really need to be attentive and aware of. And as you start to go through 1 kilometer to go, the road swings right, followed by a left, and you've got 2 central islands in that part that the riders need to be aware of too. And you have a right-hand turn at around 500 meters to go, followed by the final turn of the day left at around 200 meters.
And Danny, this was a role that you would, if you weren't sprinting yourself when you were a pro, this was a role that you would do a lot. You would be the sort of final lead-out rider. And this move, we're going through Radley here, just outside 10 kilometers to go. But in terms of organising this lead-out and looking at how technical it is on the run into the finish, because it must be something that you're communicating to each other out on the road. How would you be looking to organise this one, dropping it, and where would you drop your sprinter off?
I think it's the critical moment for me is just before that 2 kilometers to go mark. They have a relatively straight run into around 1 kilometers to go, and I think with all the central islands that the riders have got to contend with there, it's really important not to be on the back foot. So I'd be looking to make sure the whole team is up there with that 2 kilometers to go mark, and then that the team are very aware as to which rider is going to pull off at which stage. Again, the last bend is the most critical, and their leaders have to be going around that first. The sprinters, they need to be dropping their riders off there. So again, having numbers to play with up front, not being left out in the lurch too early, like Hannah was talking about, that some teams have been faced with in this women's tour, and just having that strength and cohesion. But it's easier said than done.
Meike Kröger, though, is quite keen to try and get clear of our breakaway group. So had a little attack there. Anna Iversen gapped very slightly, but got back in there. Back to the peloton here, and you can just see there Audrey Cordon-Ragot bringing Elisa Longo-Borghini up towards the front. And then you've got your SD Works riders just on the right of your picture. Bike Exchange, Jayco. They've got 3 riders just in front. They've got to be really careful as well of not going too far out. Trek Segafredo, I've got Eleanor Backstead in the centre. Bike Exchange, Jayco, I've got Tennille Campbell. So I think with 10k to go, they've got 3 riders now up towards the front. So whether they've got Alex Manley, whether they've got Ari Fidanza as a sweeper, or whether they're going to work for her in this one, that we'll see as this goes on here. But I think Bike Exchange, Jayco, looking at the numbers they've got to be careful they don't use Tennille Campbell up too early.
It's just keeping things under control, isn't it? And that communication from your teammates who are behind you. If they feel that you are pushing on a little bit too much than you actually need to, and going a little bit over that tempo that you actually need to set, that communication, just to say, just knock it off a couple of kilometers per hour. We don't need to be committing so far out at the moment. Let's make sure that we still come into this finale with strength in numbers.
Clever game as well with Team DSM having 2 riders at the front now to try and close this one as efficiently as possible, but then having the 3 riders looking after Lorena Wiebes a little bit further back, just to be able to have a little bit more shelter, differing from Team Bike Exchange tactic, where the whole team are at the front at this stage already with around 9 kilometers to go.
Mika Kruger made a little attack there. That's Anna Everson's day in the breakaway done. Alessia Patuelli, the rider that came across to that break with Kruger, has managed to stay with her. Trek Segafredo are coming up here, so don't forget Elisa Longo-Borghini took a 5th spot in the bunch sprint. We know that she can navigate and negotiate these bunch sprints, even if she doesn't have that top end. We know that in the sprint, we know that Longo-Borghini can pilot her way through and keep herself up there.
Yeah, just through her experience and knowing exactly where she needs to be and placing and positioning herself in that sprint. And I think, of course, it played into her favour because the weather conditions into Gloucester it was rainy, the road was very slick, and she wasn't afraid to take a lot of speed into that final corner at that point, and found herself in a terrific position and taking opportunity should have anything have happened at that point in that sprint.
The whole team now as well on the front for Trek Segafredo here. Ellen Van Dijk just signalling to the riders behind her that there was a speed bump there for the riders to contend with, to hold their handlebars slightly tighter than they would be otherwise. These riders now still keen to try and keep this one going. Alessia Patuelli and Mika Kruger.
Team DSM with Megan Jastrab on the left, Trek Segafredo all on the right, and with Chloe Hosking on the wheel of Elisa Longo-Borghini. And again, they're a team. They fight for their road, Trek Segafredo, and especially from this far out. And we have seen them do it this week for Chloe Hosking, and they're never pushed from that position.
They're not. They've got the firepower, haven't they? And I think they almost let their legs do the talking there. They are able to go this far out because they've got those types of riders within their roster to be able to do so and hold their own on the longer range efforts, whereas Team DSM leaving slightly later and saving their horsepower for later on in the lead out. So Bike Exchange on the left, we've got 2 riders from Team Movistar looking for Barbara Grishki. Amelia Farlin just in the middle of the 2 teams there, with Grace Brown locked on the second teammate.
Alessia Patuelli, though, with Mika Kruger, is persisting with this one, and you can see through the centre, Tiff Cromwell bringing number 41, Kasia Niewiadoma, up towards the front. And then if they fancy their chances of a sprint, Shari Bossite, who's wearing 43, is on the wheel of Kasia Niewiadoma with Elise Chabet in that green Skoda Queen in the Mountains jersey. But we saw a little chat earlier on, will Kasia Niewiadoma try something before the finish here?
You can see how Trek Segafredo having the right-hand side of the road, also Bike Exchange taking the left-hand side of the road from this helicopter shot how they're able to avoid the speed humps. Now finally, Canyon SRAM, they go down the center of these, because before you were seeing some riders taking the very edge of the speed hump. It's not a speed hump that goes across the whole road. You know, that lends itself to little problems, as Danny's mentioned. If you're not holding the bars tightly enough and you just slightly have a mishap or a pinch puncher or something, just trying to avoid any possible mishap on this run into the finish.
So from the aerial shot, Bike Exchange Jayco, our breakaway last two riders from our three-rider breakaway group, still holding a small advantage over the peloton, but the days are numbered. Movistar, you can see there, in those blue jerseys with the big M's on their back. Is that Marjolein van 't Geloof trying to come up for Le Col Wahoo with Micah van der Down on her wheel in that red and white Pilar Sprints jersey. So Micah van der Down, having not had to sprint it out for the points today, will she have a go for the finish? Nivea Doma, Longo, Borghini move up. Grace Brown just staying on the wheels of her teammates. So all of the sprinters teams now just trying to collect each other. Chloe Hosking just tightening her shoes on the right of your picture there for Trek Segafredo. 5 kilometers to go, and it looks like its day is up for the breakaway group. It took a long time for anything to really get established today. Here come the UAE ADQ team as our breakaway duo are caught. And Sofia Bertizzolo had a great first day for UAE ADQ. And you can see as well now Loretta Hansen on the front. Canyon SRAM with Tiff Cromwell on the right of your picture. The whole of Bike Exchange Jayco with Alex Manley and Ari Fidanza right on the wheels.
Micah Bogard bringing Sofia Bertizzolo up down the centre of this this peloton, just trying to find a way through, as is Maëlle Grossetet of FDJ down the centre of the road. So they've got a couple of riders who are protecting Grace Brown. They're just trying to move up and find their position, just to try and get them into that team formation. As you see, you take that right-hand corner there, and the formation of some of the teams just gets ever so slightly disrupted, but Trek Segafredo straight back into that formation to keep things onto the right-hand side of the road.
They're committing, aren't they, to the right-hand side of the road. In every corner that they take, they're holding their presence and able to stay really cohesive here with their lead out. Loretta Hansen on the front for Trek Segafredo. Tiff Cromwell moving up for Canyon SRAM as we go through 4 kilometers to go. Le Col Wahoo now present, looking for Micah van der Down. Left-hand corner, Bike Exchange take that one with Kristen Faulkner.
Our yellow jersey, you can see there's just lost her teammates at the moment as Grace Brown, as she just moves up alongside that pink jersey of Lorena Wiebes. And Lorena Wiebes has got Charlotte Kuhl on the wheel as the DSM rider, as Kristen Faulkner now comes to the front. The teammates of Grace Brown just surround her. They've got to be very attentive on the run-in towards the finish here. It's Faulkner for Bike Exchange Jayco. Loretta Hansen now hands over to Ellen van Dijk on the front of the Trek Segafredo lead out there. And you've got Eleanor Backstedt, Audrey Cordon-Rago, Elisa Longo-Borghini, and then you've got Chloe Hosking.
You have to be so vigilant on this run into the finish here in Oxford with the road furniture that the riders will have to try and avoid. There's one of those central islands, but also, you know, with it being quite wide on this run-in as well, which side of the road do you want to pick? Because the sprint trains of Bike Exchange Jayco and Trek Segafredo, they've picked the left and right side of the road respectively as we go through 3 kilometers to go. Gives opportunity for other teams to start to move up. You can see on the left-hand side there, the Austrian champion of Katrin Schweinberger of Ceratizit WNT moving up with Maria Giulia Confonieri and Marta Lack on the wheel here.
Sheila Gutierrez trying to move up there for Movistar, but it's still on the front. Ellen van Dijk of Trek Segafredo, Ceratizit WNT. The yellow jersey's got to be so careful here in Grace Brown. The yellow jersey moves around on the outside, uses that lead out there, and Tenielle Campbell moving up for Bike Exchange Jayco just to get herself up into a right position. Clever riding there from the yellow jersey.
but she's in the wind quite a lot, and at the moment isolated. She doesn't have any teammates around her. As the technical run-in to this finale, she has lost a few teammates. They're all out of position. You can see Amelia Farlin down the centre of the camera there. She's trying to get out. She's boxed in. She's alongside. You can just see her indicate there as they turn to the left.
So it's Tenielle Campbell leading out here, 2 kilometers to go. Bike exchange, Jaco on the front with Trek Segafredo as they're all the lead out. Here comes Amelia Farlin with Clara Caponi. Where is the yellow jersey? The yellow jersey at the bottom of your picture, and Elisa Longo-Borghini ahead of her. Don't forget that Grace Brown took 3 bonus seconds at the intermediate sprint point. FDJ leading out here for Clara Caponi, but they've got to be mindful of where the yellow jersey of Grace Brown is in this one. Van Dijk, Backstead, Cordon Rago, Longo-Borghini and Chloe Hosking right there up towards the front. There's the yellow jersey you can just see on the left of your picture.
She's got so much work to do at this point, Grace Brown, and she is isolated. She doesn't have a teammate here to try and bring her up, and the work of Farlin is done for the day. Grace Brown, she's in the lead out of Team DSM there. She's just trying to follow the wheels, but as things start to become quite chaotic into this run-in with these Central Islands,
Audrey Cordon-Rago taking over for Trek Segafredo. Then it's Elisa Longo-Borghini, who's currently sitting in second position on the general classification. Movistar now just disrupting the lead out of Trek Segafredo as it's still Audrey Cordon-Rago on the front.
Cordon Rago, here goes Longo-Borghini. So Elisa Longo-Borghini up towards the front as they swing left, then right. And Audrey Cordon Rago still has the front. The lead out now from Trek Segafredo as we go through 1 kilometre to go. Longo-Borghini with Chloe Hosking right on the wheel. Then you've got Barbara Gorishki. Micah van der Down is not far away. So is Lorena
Longo-Borghini
Wiebes.
accelerating.
So Longo-Borghini launching the sprint here.
Take a look where Grace Brown is. She's at the bottom of your screen on the left-hand side. So there's around 22 positions between Elisa Longo-Borghini, who's the nearest challenger of our yellow jersey, Grace Brown at the moment. And these gaps are starting to open now as we have this run into Oxford. And this is where the gradient really starts to incline. This is where it starts to bite.
500 metres to go, and we just saw a glimpse of Christine Majerus making a move as well. It's Longo-Borghini and Caponi. Elisa Longo-Borghini trying to find a way through here as they swing left. Lorena Wiebes is right there. Teresa Newman over out of that corner, and it's Clara Caponi on the front. But here comes Lorena Wiebes, and Elisa Longo-Borghini is still up there in third spot. Longo-Borghini trying to come through to take some sprint points and some bonus seconds. Longo-Borghini throws the bike at the line. Phenomenal sprint there from the Italian champion. Has she just nicked 6 seconds in that sprint? We'll have a look at the line. Where was the yellow jersey? But look at that.
The celebration.
Segafredo are celebrating.
This is that run into the finish. Lorena Wiebes opens up, and take a look at the gaps that are opening here from behind. Wiebes leading it out. The Breast Cancer Now leaders jersey. Caponi, she's trying to hang on, and it's Caponi and Elisa Longo-Borghini. And I think the throw to the line, Elisa Longo-Borghini taking third on the stage. Wiebes with the stage victory. Caponi with the second. And with Elisa Longo-Borghini with that third place, that's 4 bonus seconds.
And the gaps in between potentially the riders there. What a finish. Caponi, Wiebes and Elisa Longo-Borghini. That means she will take that overall here in the Women's Tour by 1 second.
And there's the yellow jersey. You can just see head down in the saddle just behind the rider from EF Education. She's at around 12th position at this point, and with the gaps opening up in this sprint too.
But that's what we were saying about the finish, that the FDJ had to use Caponi as a pilot fish and just bring Grace Brown into the finish on her wheel, because we saw Longo-Borghini doing this throughout this race, 5th the other day. And you can see it for FDJ. They'd played it perfectly all day.
I think they just became really complacent there in the finish. I think they were very confident coming into the finish that Elisa Longo-Borghini would not be able to feature in the final. You can see the result there, the confirmation of the result. Lorena Wiebes from Clara Caponi and Elisa Longo-Borghini taking that 4 seconds on the line, which means she has taken the yellow jersey by 1 second. They put all their sights on Clara Caponi for the stage, but actually it's profit buffeted the Trek Segafredo team, who were in control of that lead out from around 4 kilometers to go. The strength of the whole team there, and what a sprint from Longo Borghini. She says it herself, quote from Longo Borghini, "I sprint like a stone." Well, she absolutely did not sprint like a stone there. Absolutely incredible work.
What a team, right?
I think with the technical running of the nature, you started to see that FDJ, they were just split up a lot and they couldn't find each other as a team. And Grace Brown, she was left isolated with a lot of work to do and no one to really take control in that technical run into the finish. And for